When we talk about the impact of COVID-19, we often focus on the impact on businesses, on various sectors, on people's incomes, jobs, and the economy overall. One place where we forget to talk about the impact and which has really shaken up things is in the educational sector. Students from very young ages to seniors to graduates and postgraduates have seen their educational journey interrupted because of COVID-19. Now, once again, with a third wave among us and Omicron being highly infectious, we've seen thousands of students forced back into their homes and having to join school or college or their classes completely online. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the long-term impact of this, what this has meant for the future of education, and when we enter the third year of the pandemic, can we really talk about going back to normalcy? What now is normal as far as the educational system is concerned? Have we learnt enough in the last several months to make sure there's no loss of learning? To speak on some of these issues, I'm joined today by Surabhi Goyal. She's the CEO of AB Education Trust Schools. Dr. Jyoti Gupta is joining us on the show today. She's Director and Principal at the K.R. Mangalam World School. And I'm also joined by Anubha Srivastav Sahai, President of the IWPA, an association that also represents the concerns of parents. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much for speaking with us today on the show. Ms. Goyal, let me begin by getting your take on the premise of what we're talking about. At this juncture, when we're seeing another round of disruptions to students of all ages, what is the kind of impact?
So I can't even tell you how excited the students were when, we were finally reopening schools. I'm based out of Mumbai, so we were reopening schools in October and the grades 1 to 7 were scheduled to come in December. There was absolute euphoria, the children were so excited. So obviously now to go back into a lockdown is, very, very disheartening, not only for the, the teachers, the parents, but of course for the students as well. But, just currently, if I were to speak about exactly like this month, the cases have really gone through the roof. So, it is almost impossible to imagine opening the schools, in the current situation. Of course, we know that all of those who have been infected have, fortunately, only, mild symptoms and, things are not as they were in the second wave. But it's very, very sad. And all I can say is that I'm hoping this wave rides out quickly and we can restart school as quickly as possible.
Now, let's come to the big question about, is this what the new normal looks like? Most experts agree that Omicron might not be the last wave that we're seeing, but our default mode to any new wave or a rise in infections is to shut schools and take all learning online. Do you think that this is the only way forward, Dr. Gupta?
So I would say that the technology is here to stay, and so is COVID. And we will see probably many more variants coming in. It may not be as strong as the initial two waves, but whatever waves are coming in, it's going to be not very safe for the children to come to the schools amidst the infections. So I would say that somewhere the technology has come in as a saving grace, because if technology wasn't here, the sessions would have been 0 sessions for the children. And the schools were not told to go online, to create a transaction online, to create new lesson plans, to create new assessment patterns. Kudos to the teachers, to the students, and also to the parents of the nation and the and the world, where a new paradigm and a new pedagogy came in the form of technology. Now, online teaching, having said that, online teaching is not the solution for education. Going forward, we will have to get the children to school as and when we can. Maybe if the entire year is not possible, we should be prepared and ready that whenever the circumstances will permit us, we will get the children back into school. See, it's not just about the children. It is also the staff who comes. It's also the teachers who come. They also have their families, back home. So if they are working, their husbands, their spouses, their wives are working, so there are chances of getting the infections to the school as well. So it's the entire ecosystem which is there at the school, not just the students. There is a large and a great need of the children to come back to the school, because there are a lot of misconceptions that have built up in their concepts. There are a lot of learning loss, learning gaps there. But again, we cannot wait for 100% everything to subside before we can get the children to school. So in a staggered manner, whenever there is an opportunity, we should all look forward to, the parents and the teachers, of getting the children to the school. And when there is a surge like the current one, which is so quick, we should be able to seamlessly go back onto online teaching. So the hybrid way of learning is the way forward. That is what is going to give the confidence to the parents, and that's the way probably we have to move ahead for at least the next couple of quarters, if I may say so.
Yeah, so it's difficult to put an end time to this, really, because I've been hearing this from educationists for over a year now, that things will subside soon and we'll come back soon. And meanwhile, children have graduated from one class to another. Ms. Sahai, what is the perspective of parents? A lot of parents that I speak to, and I could be wrong, you could give me a clearer and broader view, feel that their kids are not getting the optimum kind of education with online schooling. Of course, schools are trying their best, teachers are doing their best, but there are serious limitations and it has resulted in learning loss. Are some of those concerns still persisting?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thanks for having me here and for this important discussion which you are doing it today. Because now the schools are shut in many states and parents and teachers are again back to square one. But what I would say that yes, there were learning loss, no doubt, and mostly in remote areas in villages where we don't have proper internet facility and online access to the children. So definitely there is a learning loss, and as far as online teaching is concerned, we cannot replace offline class with online classes. So that is the thing. But yes, now being in pandemic, that is the only solution which we have. Otherwise, as Jyoti ma'am has said, it could be a 0 year. 2020 and 21 could have been a 0 year. But fortunately, we came out of that. Children went to school for a few days or few weeks, and even the children in 10th and 12th board also, they could participate in some kind of assessment in offline mode as well as online mode. So I would not say that there is a 100% learning loss. Children have studied well, whatever they could, and children have accommodated also. That is the best part which I have seen. Teachers have worked very hard in that, and there is a communication gap between parents and children, no doubt. But what I would say that slowly and gradually, we would see that children will come back to school. This year, particularly in 2021, I have seen that maximum children were going to school in remote areas, in villages. We have seen, but like cities like Mumbai, Delhi, and big cities, Bangalore and other cities, where the infection rate was quite high, parents were quite hesitant to, they were not ready and willing to send their children to school because of the cases which were being reported in the school once the school were restarted. So now, even in CBSE 10th and 12th board, even some state boards were conducted in the month of November and December, and almost 99% children appeared. Even parents want their children to go back to school. My son was going to school once it reopened in the month of, I suppose October, and 3 months he was going to school. And he was infected with COVID in the month of September, but we came out of COVID. And now I can see and I can feel that even some parents are quite confident, especially the children who belong to senior classes, 10th, 8th onward. As far as primary and pre-primary is concerned.
Now, you know what is going to be perhaps the game changer is that now children 15 and above are also eligible for vaccination and have got at least one vaccine, and since it's the Covaxin, within 28 days they will all get their second dose. But the point remains, and let me come to Ms. Goyal on this, and let's go broader than what's happening in Mumbai, Delhi or our schools. Let's look at India overall, and let's look at how other countries are dealing with this crisis. So many countries, the United States especially, has now resorted to things like rapid action tests every day or every alternate day for kids, so that you're safer before you come in. Many epidemiologists really believe that, especially for younger children, there is no real concern with COVID-19 and the infections are extremely mild. The learning loss they suffer is much more harmful. Do you think we need to broaden our horizons on how to deal with these surges now?
So, Taman, I absolutely agree. There are many schools in India who are also, when they had their senior students come in, were testing every week. But let me give you a school perspective to this, right? So testing is expensive. You can't expect the staff to pay for it. And it's also difficult for the school to shell out money to test, the staff, and also for the parents to test their children, every week or every alternate days. So that remains a concern, which is, not true for maybe the US universities where they've been testing students every alternate day. The other issue that happens is, of course, the school buses haven't started. So it's very difficult for parents to bring in and drop in their students and take them back. So this is also a very reasonable operational issue that has been happening, getting students to come back to school. But the biggest problem that schools are facing is that now we say, abroad in US and all the classroom sizes are small. Now in India, we typically have 45, 50, 60, 70 students in class. Now, how am I to maintain social distancing? So obviously only half the number of students can come in, which means the other half would have to remain at school, because suddenly my school size cannot become double, or I cannot have twice as many teachers if I distribute them in two different classes as well, which means half the students would still have to be at home while say roll number 1 to 25 is in school and studying, and roll number 26 to 50 is at home. So the teacher will have to figure out how she can engage with students both online and offline. So, these are some of the real challenges that schools are facing in kind of getting the hybrid learning, method to stay. But having said that, even getting the students to come in, even for a few hours, does make sense. So to answer your questions, I think, yes, we should start the school, get students to come in. COVID is here to stay. And, we just need to be agile, as Dr. Jyoti said, maybe start school, close down the school. But whatever little window also we get, we should just make sure that, students are coming into school as far as possible.
At the end of the day, we also need to do perhaps a cost-benefit analysis of how much this is impacting students. And Dr. Gupta, this is where I'd like your point of view as well. We know that there are going to be studies to assess the learning loss. There are some reports out there on the amount of learning loss that students have suffered overall. What has been your experience on how much children have forgotten? In younger classes, children have forgotten the basics of reading, writing and mathematics. Very young children have not developed key social skills that they would have in school. Older children perhaps are going to fall back in their path to their careers because of this. So give us a sense of what we're losing out with children staying back at home.
See, I was reading somewhere that if we are not crippling the children physically, we are crippling them mentally by not having them in the schools. So it's a very strong statement that somebody made, but it's true to some extent, because the children who have just started school, they have not seen school for the past 2 years. They don't know what the school looks like, whether it is just a screen or there is actually a school, another building with more children where they come and do the peer learning, where they can collaborate, they can play, they can, acquire not just the social skills, but the communication skills, their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills. Everything is suffering right now. Because when they come to school, they play with the dough, they do the lacing activities, they do coloring, they do drawing, they run around. So everything that they do in the school, every space is a learning space, and every skill and competency that they have to acquire when they are this young, that's important for them. The foundational literacy and numeracy that we are talking about in the new national education policy, that, and there are so many reports. The latest ACER report also says that our children who are in class 5 are not able to comprehend what a class 2 child should be knowing. So the foundational literacy and numeracy, the basic quantification, the children are not understanding right now, because you can only do as much in the online classes. Going forward, again, the children are building so many misconceptions. We have done the diagnostic assessments, and even the CBSE and NCERT is going to come out with the framework for the diagnostic assessment. So when you actually diagnose, you get to know that there are so many misconceptions that have been built by these children. The concepts are not clear, and these are the concepts that are going to stay with them even if they become the engineers and the doctors. How will you even cover up those concepts? It's not going to be very easy. Just imagine the children who are going to go into the engineering or the medicine. They've not done school for the 2 years, so they've done the shortened syllabus, they've done the even the curriculum has been divided into 2 independent terms. The assessments have not been very, very fair. Last year was only dependent upon what the schools could score in the earlier years. So the actual scores of the children were not, not depending upon their competency. So when we will realize this, maybe in another 2 or 3 years, it will probably be very, very late at that point in time. That is why I go back to what I said earlier, that whenever the opportunity permits, we should get the children back into the schools. We should not wait for the entire year. So these children can come back, and some activities can be done with these children. When I say activities, means the academic activities can be done with these children when they are in school. So a lot of learning gaps are there, and the sooner we realize them, I think the better it will be.
The learning gaps are really worrisome. What's really worrisome also, and here it's a catch-22, Ms. Sahai, because I understand fully well as a parent the concerns about sending your children to school when there is a virus out there for which vaccinations are not available to them. They've just been made available for one section of children. But on the other hand, what the children are losing out is also massive. Do you think that we need to now have clarity on how to move forward and get all the views in one place so that the kids don't suffer? Because the fact is that the same children who go out to shopping malls with their parents, or to holidays, or to restaurants, or to friends' houses, or to playgrounds have not been let into school for a lot longer.
Yeah, I do agree with what you have said, but see, as far as parents' mentality is concerned, I'm telling you, maximum parents are not in favor of sending their children to school because they fear that they don't know how their child will be treated at school, how they will be managing the children, whether the child, because suppose a parent who is going to a mall or maybe some shopping complex or wherever they are going, they're under the supervision of the parent. That is what I have, whatever discussion we had with so many parents, that was the biggest concern, that whenever we are going out, the child is under our supervision. But in school, we don't know whether the teacher or whether the principal or the staff will be wearing masks or not. Some parents have noticed that the children were mingling with each other and they are not wearing masks. So there should be some kind of vigilance so that the parents can get confidence that yes, your child is safe, and the school is also taking care of everything. Because in government schools, especially not in private, most of the government schools and aided schools, parents are quite worried that their children may not get some attention and they might catch virus. So maybe we need to come forward, all the stakeholders should come forward and discuss how to move forward, how to move ahead, and how to bring the children back to school. Yes, with the consent of parents, no doubt, because still there are many parents, they don't want to send their children to school. They are okay with online class. But yes, hybrid mode is the way forward. And slowly, I think maybe parents will start sending their children to school. In 2021, I have personally seen that in remote areas as well as in Mumbai or Delhi or maybe other cities also, parents especially see their children. So this year also, I feel maybe once the third wave is over, parents will send their children back to school. And after vaccination also, many parents are going to send their children to school.
Yeah. So perhaps when vaccinations are rolled out for all classes, the attitudes will change. But if Omicron has taught us anything, it is that even after 2 vaccinations and maybe 1 round of infections, you can get infected again. So our entire tolerance level to the idea of children getting infected, the whole idea to how much the damage is if they don't go to school versus the harm of getting COVID, all of those solutions need to be found. Those conversations need to start happening right now about how hybrid schooling can actually work practically. A long way to go, and the cost of this could be the future of our children. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the discussion today.